Okay, little confession time. I have a super huge pet peeve. When I cannot find something, it sends me over the edge. I kind of think of myself as like a fairly patient person, but when I cannot find something and I think to myself, I know I left it right here. Oh my goodness, I lose my mind completely. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, what is your pet peeve? I want you to think about your pet peeve. And I want you to think about what happens when the pet peeve happens. Like, how do you feel and how do you react? We have seen so far that Moses was such a humble man. And over, he demonstrates so much resilience. And I think a huge part of his resilience was rooted in his humility. It was also obviously very rooted in his very intimate relationship with God, which is what this whole journey is about, is growing closer to God and understanding this wonderful Heavenly Father that cares for us. But in Numbers 14, I have a feeling we are seeing Moses's pet peeve. Long story short, he tells the people very, very specifically not to do something. Don't do this. Do not do this. Do not do this. And basically what it was is the people decided that even though God had told them not to try to go into the promised land and conquer the people because God was displeased with them because they had not believed him for the promise that he was going to give them the promised land. And so basically God says, okay, fine. You don't want to believe me that I'm going to give you the promised land? I won't give it to you. In fact, none of you are going to get it. You're going to spend the next 40 years in the desert, and your children will get the promised land instead. This is what has happened. And so the people wail and moan and cry because they want to go into that promised land. And so they come up with the idea, well, we'll just go in and take it ourselves. And Moses is like, this is a really bad idea. Please don't try this. This is not going to end well. Do not do this. And so basically he does what clearly, as we follow throughout Moses's life, is his pet peeve. And that is when he specifically tells them, the Lord wants us to do this, do this. And the people go, yeah, I don't really think I want to do that. Yeah, well, I'm going to do this instead. And here we have it yet again. And so the people were like, okay, we're just going to go take it ourselves then. And surely God will just change his mind and he'll give it to us anyway, even though he told us he wasn't going to because we refused to believe his promises. And so the people go in and guess what? They get a whooping from the people that lived there in the land, and it doesn't go well, and the people are devastated and they are crushed. And guess what? Moses gets to now spend 40 years in the desert shepherding these people instead of a nice little 3-month trip through the Red Sea into the promised land where everybody gets to live happily ever after. Moses is now stuck for 40 years in this desert, leading these people that don't listen to him and don't listen to God. Probably, yeah, I could see that, how that would be a pet peeve. Resilient women realize that oftentimes we become stuck in a less than desirable situation because somebody else didn't listen to wisdom. And just like Moses, we can either remain humble and turn to the Lord in the midst of that injustice and trust that God will make it right in the end, even though it may take much longer than we would realize. Or we can be like the people of Israel and say, God didn't really mean it. I'm just going to do whatever I want, and pretty much get our butts whipped. Let's just tell it like it is. So building a resilient faith means that we believe that what God says, he will do. And when God says, believe me for this, he means, believe me for this. And when God says, don't do that, it's not going to go well for you, God means you're going to get a whooping on the other side of this if you don't listen to me. So being a resilient woman means taking God at his word. And it also means that when we are put in a situation where we have to endure some less than ideal circumstances so somebody else can get their whooping and learn that what God says is what God means, we can trust God to make it right in the long run and to take care of us. This is what resilience is. It kind of goes back to that whole acceptance thing that we've been talking about. And it also goes back to the whole idea of realizing life isn't always going to be fair, and life is going to be hard sometimes. But we do have a good Heavenly Father, and he will care for us, and he will give us everything that we need, and he will get us to the place of promise that he has for us in his perfect time, and we can trust him.